Yeah, what up? I made a video, well, I recorded a video like a few days ago that ended up being way too long-winded. I was gonna edit it and then put it up, but I was also speaking kind of quietly and just didn't really like it as I was watching it. But, sorry. Excuse me. Yeah, I've been back home this last week, back down here in North County, San Diego. So, and I've been thinking a lot about gender and transition, and a lot of that's been, being around family and friends from my past life. Yeah, anyway, so I started taking testosterone 2 months ago, and I'm already seeing like different changes. My voice is getting lower, which my voice already I had like trained myself, probably from like age 17, 18 until now, which I'm 26 now, to speak in a lower tone. I generally had like trained myself to do that, but now my voice it's just getting lower. I'm also, I've definitely got like more energy, and I'm building muscle faster and in different ways, which I have always been a very athletic person. But yeah, it's manifesting in a different way now. Yeah, but so, okay. Being back home, my two brothers, one of them in particular, was kind of like asking me to explain, in kind of like a jokingly pushing and also lovingly way, like, oh, what, you want to like grow a beard? Is that like why are you doing tea? And he's like a cis guy in his 40s, and I told him the truth, and I didn't really expect him to understand, because most people who are not trans or particularly non-binary, I'm not gonna expect them to understand this, but a friend of mine another non-binary friend of mine or framed starting hormones, particularly in their case starting testosterone, as just they wanted to fuck around and find out. And I'm 26, I'm a millennial. I was born at the end of the fuck around century, only to live in the find out century. It hurts me because it's true. Sorry for the meme reference. But yeah, like, that's mainly my approach to hormones, is fuck around and find out. And I think a lot of people might have a problem with that, both trans people as well as cis people, because to suggest that engaging with hormones or the framework of fuck around and find out, to suggest that to people is kind of to say like, well, it's not a big deal, and you should just try it and see if you like it. And to be clear, I'm not advocating for that for people, unless that feels liberating and empowering for them, which is true for me. Okay. I since I was like 15 or 16 years old, so for like 10 or 11 years, I've been watching videos about gender and transition on YouTube. Largely, like, not critically thinking about it, but always feeling like kind of somewhat called and interested to like watch that content and to learn about those things. But, you know, over the course of the last like 2 years that I've been more on top of my shit with my gender and my understanding of my gender, there has been like a serious paralysis associated with engaging with this in like a very hyper serious way. Like, I can't do this surgery or do these hormones because this is such a big deal, and like, what if I'm wrong? And you know, surgery, that's a different thing. I'm not delving into that territory, largely because that freaks me out. And I know hormones do have permanent changes, but for me, thinking about the permanent changes that come with hormones, like if one decided to stop taking hormones, that feels fine to me. So anyway, point being, I'm non-binary. Maybe I should have said that earlier in the video, but I'm non-binary. I'm assigned female at birth, but I am non-binary, and you know, I've identified this way for 2 years. Before I started identifying this way, people in my life started using gender-neutral pronouns for me, as well as my whole life. People have misgendered me. Like, often people have thought that I was a guy. But yeah, so I started taking testosterone as a non-binary person, not because I feel like I am a trans man. Although, on that note, I will say gender is fluid, and I feel both between and outside of the binary gender constructs. I don't feel like I can be placed in either of those categories. And I don't really want to be. However, that said, gender is fluid. It's a spectrum. Maybe I'll feel differently in the future. But this is kind of my whole life. I've felt in between and outside of those things. So anyway, but yeah, I started T, and I did that because when I heard the whole like fuck around and find out mentality that my friend had with hormones, I was like, oh my god, you're right. I don't have to psych myself out of this. I don't have to make this such a big deal to the point where I'm not doing anything and where I'm staying unhappy. So like, fuck around and find out with hormones is like, I'm gonna do this. Maybe I won't like what happens, but I won't know if I will or won't like what happens until I try it. And yeah, so that's what I've decided to do. And yeah, I guess I just wanted to like share this video because I think it's a bit different for trans or binary trans people to the way they engage with starting hormones is probably a bit different, I think, than the way that non-binary people engage with starting hormones. And so basically, for my non-binary, gender non-conforming, whatever gender you are that is not male or female people out there, I just wanted to put this out there to be like, if you want to do hormones because you think there's even a small part of you that thinks doing that will help you, just fucking do it. Like, just do it. If you have the means and like both financially as well as like a social support system to do that and to not have it completely fuck your life up, I would say do it. And I'm saying that at this point where I'm like 2 months into my process. And for me, so far, it's been great. Top notch. Yeah, I don't know. I won't say that I'm an expert in trans YouTube, but I've spent a little bit of time in that part of YouTube. And I feel like often what I see is either binary trans people talking about hormones or non-binary like AFAB people who've gotten top surgery. And like both of those are great. Those are both great. But I just wanted to provide my voice and my experience and perspective into this. So AFAB, non-binary people, if you want to do T, fucking do it. AMAB, non-binary people, if you want to do estrogen or estradiol or progesterone or whatever those hormones are, I think you should do it. Especially if you've been thinking about it for, I don't know, however much time feels like enough time for you. Like, I don't want to suggest there's a right amount of time to have been considering something and you need to have thought about it for that much time until you can be like, okay, I've thought about it for this much time, so now I'll go do it. But for me and myself, like, if it's just been like a day where I'm like, maybe I should do this, I'm probably not going to make a decision just after one day of being like, maybe I should start hormones. But for me, it wasn't that. It was a lot longer. And, this up until 2 months ago when I started, I had been binding my chest for a year. Because that felt like a step that I was going to take to see if that would help me feel less dysphoric. And it has, and it also hasn't. It's like both and. In different situations, which is something I would love to elaborate on, but I'm not going to really do that in this video. But for me, it's been quite a long process of always kind of being aware that my gender is not normal. Well, I don't even want to use that word, but my gender is different. And then kind of specifically becoming aware of like the ways in which my gender is non-conforming and my identity is more than the binary. And then specifically thinking about like, what are the things that I can do to like alleviate the dysphoria I feel and maybe help myself feel better. And I mean, this is like, for me personally, like kind of a lifetime of my brain kind of like narrowing or like funneling down to this point. The word apex is coming to mind. This like, I don't know, just this point of being like, all right, it's time. It's just time. So that's like my experience is that like, all things gender and considering different things with transition have frankly been on my mind for like the last 10 years in different ways. And then over the last 10 years specifically kind of gotten to this more, this point that feels more pressing and more urgent. And for me, I think I needed to like have it take kind of this long amount of time But I don't mean to suggest that like that has to be the case for other people. Like, I know a trans woman who like basically came out to some people and then was like, all right, now I'm gonna start estradiol. And you know, they had been thinking about it, or she had been thinking about it for like a while, I think. But then was just honest with everybody, and so it seemed fast for her to come out and then start the process. But, you know, if you know that you are a certain way, or if you think that a certain medicine or prescription or action, whatever, might help you feel better, like, you only fucking live one life on this earth, to my knowledge. Maybe there's something past here that I just don't know about yet. But I really strongly advocate for individuals making decisions to help themselves like live better, happier lives. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. And this is getting kind of long, so that's what I got. Yeah, if you're non-binary and have thoughts on this, I would love to hear them. If you're not non-binary and have thoughts on this, I guess I would also like to hear them, but I'm more so interested in a conversation with other non-binary people about hormones, as well as other aspects of transition, but specifically hormones. Yeah. All right. Well, if you watch this, thank you, and peace.